Hello everybody, Mr. Hinnon here, and I'm going to attempt to kind of set up a lab for you so that you have the data. So on the computer I have over here, you should have gotten a freezing and melting of water lab activity. So I'm going to open that up. It's basically a Google document that you're going to record everything in. Now you're going to be doing this virtually, so you're going to end up having kind of virtual information. Now our lab setup, I'm going to kind of scroll over here so you can see it, is we have a test tube with a temperature probe in it. And then over here we have a little beaker. And then if I keep scrolling, you've got some salt, a spoon, graduated cylinder, and then a cup. And then the cup is water. And the reason why we have that is you're going to need some water to start things off. And then I also have some hot water over there on the hot plate. And then last but not least, you can't actually see it, but in that blue tub is ice. So that's what we're going to be using for some of this. So to start things off, what it says is you need a 400 milliliter beaker, and you're going to put 1/3 of it full with ice, and then you're going to actually add in some water. So I'm going to pause for a second and do that. Okay, coming back. So what I have here is I have my ice water mixture, and then I also need to put some water in this test tube over here. So it says about 5 milliliters of water. So I'm going to use my graduated cylinder here to measure out about 5 milliliters. Doesn't have to be real exact, and pour it into the test tube. So there's my general setup. I'm going to slide this in a little bit so you can see. Apologize for the bumpiness. And the idea is this temperature probe is going to go into this. So that's all the basic setup that we have. On the computer, we need to get into Logger Pro. Now those that have had me before, and even those that had Mr. Hodson, you know that Logger Pros are a common program for this, but for this one we're actually going to be using a chemistry program, so that's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to go to the open folder. This time we're going to go to chemistry with Vernier, and we're going to the experiment number 2, which is freeze melt water. And basically it doesn't change things a whole lot, but we do have the temperature down here in the corner. Right now it says that my temperature is about 21 degrees Celsius. So that's the temperature of my water. And it's going to collect data every few minutes so that we have it happening over a longer period of time. Coming back to my document, so I prepared all that. It says prepare then lower the test tube into the ice water bath. So we're going to hit the collect button to begin collecting data. We're going to lower it into the ice water bath, and soon after lowering the test tube, we're going to add about 5 teaspoons of salt. Now, those that have had chemistry already know what that's going to do. When you add salt to ice water, we know that salt is going to change the colligative properties of that ice water. So it's actually water is going to freeze at a lower temperature. So the cool part is it's actually going to drop the temperature of that ice water mixture below 0 degrees Celsius. So it'll allow us to hopefully freeze the water that's in the test tube. That's kind of the purpose of it. And then we're going to add a few more ice cubes as the other ice cubes get smaller. So we've got ice over here that we can do that. And we're going to run this for 15 minutes. So I'm going to kind of show you the beginning of it. Slide back over here. I'm going to start hitting collect data. So it's starting to collect data for me. And I'm going to lower the test tube into my ice water bath. There we go. And then they said that we're going to add 5 spoonfuls of salt. Now this is not an exact process. We just need to add some salt. 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to stir it a little bit so that it can get dissolved in that ice water mixture. Now, turn you back over here. One of the things I noticed right away on my graph is that temperature is dropping. So it's already down to 6 degrees Celsius. So this little ice water bath here that I've created has really dropped the temperature. Now coming back, it says lower the test tube, continue to stir the ice water bath during part 1. Important, stir enough to dissolve the salt. Slightly but continuously move the probe during the first 10 minutes of part 1. So I don't actually want the water in here to freeze quite yet. So I want to make sure that this is staying dissolved. And so one of the things I'm going to actually do is I'm going to add a little bit more water. And I'm going to add a little more ice. I'm going to keep that stirring that up. I'm going to pause it and we'll kind of move forward in the future. Okay, you can't see anything, but it's starting to actually freeze that water inside of the test tube. The reason I know that is I can look at my graph. My graph is starting to have a temperature drop that's going below the freezing point, or what I consider the freezing point. So I'm going to let it run. It's been running for about 12 minutes now, and I'm going to let it run for a couple more minutes, and we'll eventually collect our data, see what we got. Okay, now I'm back, and we have finished the first part where we ran it for 15 minutes, where it was cooling in that ice water and salt combo. And I have my temperature of the ice right now at -5 degrees Celsius, so pretty crazy. The next part of the lab is then we're going to move it and we're going to melt it. So it says prepare the data computer for data collection from the experiment. Choose store latest run. This stores the data so it can be used later. To hide the curve of your first run, click the temperature. So we're going to come back here. This is already done, but I want to go up to the word experiment and go to store latest run. So I'm going to store it, and then to actually hide it, it says to click on the vertical axis and click more and uncheck run number 1. So I'll click on temperature, go to more. We're going to uncheck run number 1 temperature. So now it's blank. It's ready to run the second part of it. So the second part of this lab is we're going to take the test tube, we're going to raise it up and fasten it in a position above the ice water. Don't move the temperature probe. We're going to get rid of our ice water, and we're going to get about 250 milliliters of warm water now and put it back in for another 15 minutes and see what has happened. So it says, so we're actually going to let it sit in the air for a while. So we're going to bring it up. So actually hit collect. It's sitting here at -6 degrees. I'm going to bring it up. Actually, why don't I turn you so you can see what I've done? So I've raised this out. You can actually see the temperature probe is in a thing of ice. So I'm going to take my ice water that has all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go dump it, and I will be back. So what you can see is I have the ice water up here, the ice actually, and then this is warm water. So I've got it sitting above it. I don't actually want to drop it in yet. The idea is we're just going to let it sit and slowly start to melt is what we're trying to get it to do. So it's been running for about 3 minutes now. We're going to let it run for about 12 minutes. And then once that 12 minutes is up, we're going to put it into the warm ice water bath so we can see what's happening. So we want to kind of see, as I warm this back up, how does it change? What exactly happens? So we'll pause again so you can get some time heading forward. Okay, yeah, you don't know this, but I've been letting this set for about 12 minutes. And for the last 3 minutes, what they want us to do is they want us to drop it into this warm water bath, probably so it will melt a little faster. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm dropping it in. What I notice is it's starting to rise above 0 degrees Celsius. I'm going to bring this over here so you can kind of see the graph. Bring it back here so you can see the setup. So it's not really that exciting to watch, but I would highly suggest, if you have not done something like this, where take like a small glass of water and put some water in it, not very much, and then get a bigger glass that you can put ice and water and salt in, but dip that small little glass down in it, and just let the outside water, ice, salt mixture drop in temperature and cause that inner cup to freeze. I think it's just amazing how you end up with this setup here where you actually have the ice being created. I can see right now that there's still ice around the probe, but it's starting to turn into water around the probe as well. So it's just kind of amazing how this is happening. It's kind of cool. And my temperature probe, the temperature is actually rising. Now, some of you might be going, well, if there's still ice around that temperature probe, why is the temperature rising? And I think it mostly is because the tip of the temperature probe is where the thermocouple is, and that's where most of that's going to happen. And we're getting heat going from the hot water into the ice inside. So that's what we have happening, that's melting that ice around the temperature probe, causing it to now be water in your test tube, and that's rising. We're going to let this kind of keep going for a little bit longer and see what exactly happens. If this was a warmer water bath, you would see a more drastic increase in temperature and melting, but it's not that much. We've now been going for 14 minutes total, so we've got just another minute or so. And that basically is our lab. So I'm going to record this, and then I'm also going to give you a copy of the graphs that I created, and you should be able to answer all the questions. Hope you enjoyed this little virtual lab, and I'll talk to you later.